it's Jennifer Hoffman of EnlighteningLife.com, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about congruence and what's going on with us energetically and why the world seems to be falling apart, because it actually is, but it's for a good reason. So if you have been watching the news, you know that we had the presidential inauguration, we had the Women's March, we had a lot of opposing sides, opposing opinions. People got pretty vocal about their opposing opinions, and everyone's afraid. Well, they're afraid because if you've been watching my videos about 3D paradigms and how they're unraveling, remember 3D paradigms are about power over. So anytime that you have an active 3D paradigm, someone has power over somebody else. They're all about control. They're all about domination. So when you start unraveling those 3D paradigms, and hang on a second, let me grab some props. So I explained to you about how 3D paradigm is 3D is a closed system, kind of like this. And then when we start unraveling it, it starts to open up. So it starts to look like this, kind of a mess. And this is a mess. But what's really happening is something far different. So this is an orderly unraveling of the 3D paradigm. And we know that this doesn't always happen. It tends to go poof in our faces and everything starts to come apart. Well, again, because 3D paradigms are all about power and control. So as long as there is some form of domination, some form of power over others, some form of control, the 3D paradigms stay pretty much together. So they stay pretty much closed. And then as soon as you start letting in some light and start unraveling these paradigms, so we have 5D energies coming in, and this is what's happening, then the structure of 3D breaks apart. Well, the control is gone, the power is gone, the domination is gone. So everyone's kind of left standing in the dark going, okay, what do we do next? But here's what's really happening, and I'm going to make a big mess, so I hope you appreciate this. So I got this out of my shredder. So this is actually a ball of shredded paper, and if you can see it, it's kind of hard to look at, but this is a ball of shredded paper. So in our 3D paradigms, what we do is we push the things together. And one of the things that happened too over the last week is we got a new universal law. So if you've taken my 12 laws program, there are 12 universal laws in the program. And when I set the program up last year, I put a space for law 13. I knew there was a 13th law, and it's the law of congruence. So I put a little place marker, law of congruence, coming soon. And then I started writing the content, but I couldn't write it. And I waited and waited. Now, I'm a writer. Things flow to me. I'm a channel. So it's not hard for me to write. And I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get this 13th law written. Well, I got it written last weekend. And the law of congruence states that everything in the universe is a whole and complete structure unto itself, where everything in it flows in harmony. Well, there's two kinds of congruence. There's true congruence, which is the divine congruence, the whole 5D energy, everything flows, everything works. There's compassion, there's love, and there's everything else. And then there's false congruence. And false congruence occurs when we take a situation that cannot be congruent, we try and make it congruent, so we work hard at it, we give more, we pretend that we're happy when we're not. That's false congruence. And false congruence can carry us for a really long time until the day when we look at our false congruence and go, oh, you know what, this doesn't work. So what happens when you push this together and you have false congruence, and one of the best ways to describe this is like a relationship that isn't working, and you give and you give and you try and make the other person happy, and you pretend you're happy when you're not, and you try and hold it together, and one day it just falls apart. Or the job that you really don't like, but you don't think you can make any more money somewhere else, or you're afraid you're going to have a commute that's twice as long, or you think you're too old to get a new job, so you try and make that job work even though you're really unhappy. That's false congruence. Does it work? Yes. Is it sustainable? No. And 3D now is a false congruent paradigm. There's false congruence. So as soon as you let the light in that 3D paradigm, as soon as you start unraveling it, now you have false congruence. This has holes in it. It's not sustainable. And as soon as you start shedding more light, this opens more and more. But what happens too is in this false congruence, that's the shredded paper. So in this false congruence, what happens is you have little pieces of truth. So you have, yeah, I'm happy, but I'm not really happy, but I'll just make it work. So I'll just shove it in here and I'll just make it work and I'll hold it all together as tightly as I can. So we create this congruent 3D paradigm, but we have to hold it together, because what happens when I kind of let go of some of this paper starts, I told you I'd make a mess. This paper starts falling out. Why? Because as soon as I stop forcing it, it falls apart, because there isn't really any true congruence to hold it together. I'm not happy, I'm not satisfied, I'm not fulfilled, it's not working. And unless I am hanging on to it as tightly as I can, it just falls apart. As soon as I make a move, as soon as something happens, my little pieces of paper start coming out, and yes, I'm making an enormous mess. So what do you do with this? Well, you have to let this go. Now, it doesn't mean you have to quit your job tomorrow and jump in your car and drive away from your relationship, although you may want to do that. And if it's possible for you, then go right ahead. But usually most things in life don't happen that way. Usually we have to plan our exit. We have to think of other things. We have to make room for other things. So what happens is, the more willing you are to let go of your false congruence, to let go of the things that the only reason they're staying in place is because you're hanging on to them as tightly as you can. The more you're willing to let go of this, the easier it is for you to bring in true congruence, to bring in that congruence that by itself will hold this together. And it doesn't mean you don't have to put any effort, but what it means is you're not working so hard to make things work. It's like the relationship where the relationship isn't working, and that as soon as you let go of what you're giving or what you're doing or who you're being, that the relationship will fall apart. So you desperately try and hang on to the relationship, but it's a lot of work, and you're not happy and you're not fulfilled because you're spending your whole time trying to keep this relationship together or keep this life situation together. And as soon as you let go too much, everything just falls apart. So this is where we are, and what's happened on a collective level is the 3D paradigms of domination and control that have been so tightly held, and for us it's the belief that they're there, but for those who are doing the dominating and controlling, this is what they do. This is the surveillance, this is the loss of our rights and freedoms, this is all the rules and regulations, this is the private prison system where you sneeze wrong and you get arrested and put in prison so some corporation can make a lot of money. This is what the 3D paradigms are, but they're coming apart. Why? Because it's our belief that provides the structure, kind of to hold these 3D paradigms together. When we stop believing, the glue comes out, everything comes undone because it starts to unravel. We don't believe it anymore. I've read some statistics on what people believe about the media. 90% of the people believe that the media lies to us, and they do. But that's a relatively new belief, because back 10, 15 years ago, the media still lied to us and we didn't believe that they did. Now we know they do. So the whole media control is just, they put out stories, nobody believes them. Well, this is what's happening in our lives. It's happening all around us. So the more we interject new beliefs, new energies, the more these 3D paradigms come apart, and they're replaced with new beliefs, new intentions, new empowerment, because the 5D paradigms are all about self-awareness, self-empowerment, and harmony and congruence, but we create that. So as you're watching your 3D reality kind of fall apart and all this mess is like coming out in your life, and you're seeing all this mess in the world, this is what's happening. Everything that requires that we have complete control over something in order to make it work is going to fall apart, because that control is loosening. And the more we allow that to happen, the more we allow new energies to come in. Now, this is going to be a mess. So the best thing to do is shine on. Keep your intentions high. Keep your energy high. Be aware that this is happening, and that it's a process that once it starts, you can't stop it. So once this process starts happening, it's happening. The whole thing is going to unravel. But what's created in its place then is a higher version of this. Remember, 3D, 5D integration is an integration. It's not a takeover. So as this is going away, something much more solid, much more sustainable, that isn't about domination and control, that isn't about power over, it's about power with. People want to be empowered. They want to have control over their lives. They want to be self-sovereign, and they want to be energetically sovereign. And that is what 5D is all about. So as your 3D paradigms, you're watching everything unravel, don't lose hope, because this is coming in to replace it. And the more of this loosens up, the more of this that loosens up as this comes in, the more it has to go. So any energy that is not going to be able to integrate with 5D is going to go away. And it's going to have to allow itself to be replaced with something that is power with, that respects people's energy, that has compassion in it, that has love, that has support, that's not all about, a few people in the world controlling all the assets. So we live in very interesting times. This is part of the process. We thought it was going to be all sweetness and light, and we were going to get dumped in, heaven somewhere, and ascension was going to be all about a spaceship coming or Jesus coming down. And what happened is we have mess, and that mess is going to continue for a little while. But it can be a lot more manageable when we understand what the mess is doing, and that the more we are focused on bringing this 5D energy in, the more we minimize the mess, and we allow that process to occur more smoothly. So I hope this is helpful. The 12 Universal Laws program is available at 12laws.com. I'm offering it for a special price right now, so sign up because that expires pretty soon. This is Jennifer Hoffman. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Visit me at enlighteninglife.com.